Hello, these are my audience members. Hello, my name is Mariano Salcedo, and this is my informative speech assignment. I want everyone please to picture yourself walking during summer school tours across campus at noon. What do you feel? What do you see? You might see some friends walking, maybe hear birds, but what I can guarantee every single student at STC has felt at noon walking across campus is the burning sunlight toasting their skin. Now, I know this might not be a big deal. What's the worst thing that can happen, correct? Maybe a simple sunburn or maybe feeling exhausted. However, this phenomenon is not only affecting the Rio Grande Valley nor the southern hemisphere of the United States. In fact, it is affecting the whole world, and its consequences are far more detrimental than a simple sunburn or dehydration. This phenomenon has a name. It's called global warming. Now, global warming and I have a long history together, for I've done policy debate in this matter for 2 years already. And in these 2 years, I've learned that government and people alike do not give it the importance it requires because they don't see the consequences of it. So, by the end of today's speech, I hope to create a general sense of awareness within all of you by exposing the main characteristics of global warming. So first, I'll start by explaining how global warming works. Then, I'll move on into explaining how global warming affects sea levels before finally explaining the correlation between hurricanes and global warming. So, to start with, how did we get to this point? How was global warming created? Well, it's in a 3 simple step process. Number 1, we as humans produce too much carbon dioxide. How? Well, in daily activities like driving, producing energy, that creates CO2. Step number 2, this CO2 goes into the atmosphere. It invades the ozone layer, which is a cover that protects us from the sun radiation, which leads to step 3, which is the carbon dioxide creates holes in this ozone layer, which allow radiation to get in, but not to get out, which traps all the heat, all the energy inside our planet. To this phenomenon we call the greenhouse effect, which is the cause of global warming. So, if you recall correctly from geography class, there's a South and a North Pole, correct? Now, what happens to ice when it's in high temperatures? It melts, it turns into liquid water. That's exactly what's happening to our polar ice caps. Because they're big lands, bodies of ice, and there's rising temperatures, these are melting. And where does that water go? Well, it goes into the ocean. And more water in the ocean leads to taller ocean levels. That's simply what I mean by sea levels rising. Now, how much have they risen in the past? Well, according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, from 1993 to 2014, the average rate at which sea levels have increased is 1/8 of an inch per year. This means that for every year, 1/8 of an inch is added to the sea levels, in average. But who would be affected by this? Well, also according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, but in 2010 in their Ocean Facts, they say that 40% of the people in the United States live in coastal areas. Now, unfortunately for these people, the rate at which sea levels are rising is not going to be that slow. In fact, according to the Climate Change 2014 Synthesis Report for Policymakers, the least expected amount of sea levels to rise in the next 100 years is a foot. Now, that's the least. The greatest amount expected is 4 feet, which is considerably greater. Now, how would this affect that 40% of people? Well, according to Climate Central in 2015, in a simulation they conducted with computer technology, they expect cities like Providence, San Francisco, Manhattan, and Boston to be partly covered underwater. And unlike any other floodings that we've seen before, these floodings are irreversible. The water will not evaporate, for it is literally the ocean encroaching into our land, and we cannot get back. We cannot push it away. It will literally consume transportation, buildings, infrastructure, everything, which will result in billions of dollars lost. Now, just like it warms up the polar ice caps, global warming warms up the entire globe, all the water that's already liquid. Now, guess what natural disaster literally fuels from warmer waters? Exactly. Hurricanes. Now, how is a hurricane created in the first place? How is it that it relates to global warming? Well, a hurricane is formed when there's warm water and then evaporates, which makes all the vapor particles go up, creating a low pressure area on the bottom, which is filled in by cold air. So this becomes a cycle. Cold air goes down while hot air goes up, and they start chasing each other, which creates a cycle, which scientists call a tropical cyclone, and we know it as a hurricane. So while scientists have not found any strong proof that more global warming means more hurricanes, they have found, however, that more global warming or warmer temperatures results in stronger hurricanes. Now, how do we measure how strong a hurricane is? Well, we use the Simpson-Saphir scale, which measures a hurricane's intensity from 1 to 5, 1 being the least powerful and 5 being the most destructive, measured by the wind speeds that the hurricane creates. Number 5 would be an example of Hurricane Katrina, which our country is unfortunately familiar with. So, according to the American Meteorological Society and their dynamic downscaling projections for 2013, in the next 100 years we'll see an increase of at least 45% in Category 4 and Category 5 hurricanes. Now, this does not mean that we'll see 45% more hurricanes in general, but out of all the hurricanes that usually happen in a year, 45% more will be Category 4 and Category 5s. So, unlike floodings, which will also cost billions of dollars, these will also cost millions of lives, which are far more important. Now, I know this all might seem scary, so to wrap things up, I would like everyone to reflect with me. Right now, the Earth is warning us, maybe with a simple sunburn or feeling dehydrated. But in the next 100 years, as you've heard in the evidence, future generations will not have this warning. What they will have will be flooded cities, wind speeds destroying all they've worked for. So what can we do to prevent that? Well, there's countless accords and companies created for this purpose, but none of them will be useful if we, the general population, people like you, like me, do not do anything about it. What can we do? Well, there's 1,000 things that we can do. But it all starts with wanting to inform ourselves. Thank you.